Hello all, Chris Daniels aka CD Play at Zero here, and today we are going to cover the history of fingerboarding videos. This video will highlight all the different ways fingerboarding was presented on video during the early days of fingerboarding up until around 2005. I chose 2005 for a specific reason. In 2006, we began to see a major shift in the style of videos with the rise of YouTube as a platform. That will be covered in part 2 in a future video. Before I dive in, I'd love to hear what is your favorite fingerboard video of all time. It can be a little mini video or even a full length. Let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, hit that like button for me. We know fingerboarding has been around since the 1970s. Unfortunately, we don't have any footage from back then, but we do have anecdotes from skateboard professionals that discuss they were doing it. And possibly the oldest surviving footage of fingerboarding, Powell Peralta's skate video, Future Primitive, featured a How They Train section, showing Lance Mountain fingerboarding inside of a sink. The entire Powell Peralta team surrounded the sink watching, included professional skateboarders Tony Hawk and Mike Mcgill. While it was meant to be a funny intermission, it sparked the passion of fingerboarding in many. Martin Winkler was one of those that were inspired. We have some footage of him from the late 80s and early 90s that show Martin Winkler fingerboarding. The style that he became known for is recognizable even back then. Martin used a camcorder to film these. Prior to diving into more fingerboard footage, I think it's important to share the technology used to capture video back then in the 80s and 90s. VHS was a standard through the early 2000s. Back in the 1980s, it was pretty uncommon for a household to have a built-in recorder which recorded the full-size VHS tapes, and one would need to connect the recorder to the portable video camera. These were cumbersome and expensive for your average household. In 1995, we saw the release of DV-ready camcorders, which included the famed VX1000, a 3CCD camera which the skateboard industry quickly adopted. This included recording tape standards such as DV-Cam and Mini DV, both of which made it so much easier to capture footage. I won't get into the process of editing, as that is a whole nother story and probably could be a whole episode itself. Dennis DeMack had a popular skateboard media site called Skateboard Naked in the early 2000s. He was an absolute shredder on the skateboard. Well, he was also a popular fingerboarder as well. He still is one of my favorite fingerboarders of all time. From Concord, California, Dennis was in quite a few skate videos. I Love Concord was the first skateboard VHS video that I'm aware of after Future Primitive that featured fingerboarding. We see Dennis do a kickflip on a toy skateboard, as well as a front blunt to manual, back blunt 360 flip, and we also see some stylish pushing and power slides. Fingerboarding was used as B-roll footage and transitions throughout the video, but was not prominently featured. The final fingerboard trick was a heel flip nose blunt to fakie, and it was quite the banger. The first handful of instances of fingerboarding we've seen in media so far were within the confines of a skateboarding video, but that was about to change. In 1996, Damien Bernardet and Tony Potex released Fingerskate Embryo. That's 2 entire years before Tech Deck was even available on the market. This video showcases them doing fingerboard tricks on ramps and rails, indoor and outdoor, even a stylish kickflip transfer from a bathtub to a sink. It was a legendary video, and you can find it on YouTube. In 1999, Tech Deck and 411 Video Magazine partnered together to highlight 4 fingerboarders. Those 4 fingerboarders included Matt Johnson, Darren Langhorst, and our French OGs Damien Bernardet and Tony Potex. 411 Video Magazine was known for its high-quality skateboard productions, and brought that into the fingerboarding video. High-quality filming with professional lighting, camera work, and editing. On top of that, the fingerboarding was at a whole nother level. This video probably had the most impact of any fingerboard video. Released as part of a package that included a tech deck, hundreds of thousands of copies reached the hands of fingerboarders both young and old. Also released during that time was Flying Fingers. Similar to Fingers of Fury, Flying Fingers was produced in association with Tech Deck. Flying Fingers highlighted professional fingerboarder Matt Johnson. The first couple of minutes feature a bunch of clips of Matt shredding, showcasing his talent and expertise. Afterwards, Matt spends the majority of the video teaching how to master the basics of fingerboarding, ranging from the ollie to flip tricks, grinds and slides, and even some transition tricks. I just love Matt's park in this video. The fourth part of the video highlights the tech deck obstacles and accessories, while the final part features about 3 minutes of Matt Johnson doing insane technical fingerboarding. In the year 2000, Matt was set to launch Flying Fingers 2. To be honest, I'm unsure if this footage was ever fully released, but Matt did upload the highlights of that video to YouTube. It showcases some footage of Matt's experience on a fingerboard tour to Chile and Mexico that they took back in 1998, as well as some exceptionally creative fingerboarding spots. Matt was so far ahead of his time. Lastly, a third VHS was released in 1999. This video was called Finger Freaks, Mini Skateboard with Drew Gale. At over 25 minutes, this is by far the most lengthy of these 3 videos that were released in 1999. At the beginning of the video, we are taken to Irwindale, California to see where the fingerboard accessories are made. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the scale of the ramps are massive. This wasn't uncommon back then. We just wanted to make huge obstacles, big stair sets, huge ramps. And you can even see that with like Matt Johnson's ramps that he made. Drew provides a background on fingerboarding, provides trick tips, highlights skateboarding, and showcases what can be done on a fingerboard. Another thing you'll notice is that Drew uses the Fingerboard brand boards, which were made by Somerville International. These plastic fingerboards contain paper graphics that were sandwiched within inside of the deck. These decks were also gripless. Released in 2002 was Hell's Nails VHS, A New Decade. This video was produced by Remy Gardner, who had a company called Hell's Nails. Remy was the god of pop and had so much control. Unfortunately, I don't have this VHS, nor do I have any footage from this time, so instead I'm playing some of his newer footage that he's been filming recently. My last history video covered Matthias Juncker and Pornstorm. Perhaps no other person shaped pro fingerboarding media in the early days as much as he did. He also did it within such a short amount of time. The Pornstorm VHS was released in 2003 and was innovative for the time. If you want to learn more about Pornstorm and Matthias Juncker, check out the video that I did specifically on them for more in-depth information on that. The Pissing Fingers VHS was the first full-length by Black River, which was released in 2003. It was the first to feature the pro fingerboarding scene and had tons of footage from contests, events, and meetups. Tons of fingerboarders contributed to this project. Like the Pornstorm video, Pissing Fingers had a professional filming and editing quality to it, and incorporated a ton of fun into the video. Matthias Juncker and Renee Renette of Pornstorm even helped to film some of the clips. Pissing Fingers 2 carried the tradition of Pissing Fingers 1. Released in 2005, it continued the recipe that made the first video such a success. Alright guys, we've covered VHS fingerboard media up until 2005. So what did online media look like? Those of you who used computers in the late 90s and early 2000s probably remember this tone. Yes, that's right. We used dial-up internet back then. We had to connect to the internet using a phone line. This took time to even connect to the internet. Once you did get connected, you would head to an internet portal such as AOL, Yahoo, or MSN. Things took forever to load. I remember when my family upgraded to a 56K modem and being able to download files at 4 kilobytes per second, and how stoked I was at that. This made uploading and downloading media a challenge. As such, most fingerboard video media back in those times were short single-trick clips. There was also a challenge in hosting the files. You would need to sign up for a web host such as AngelFire, Tripod, or GeoCities and upload your footage there. Once it was done, you'd take that URL path to the file and share it onto a fingerboarding site, your own fingerboarding site, or onto a forum. There was no image previews, and if you got disconnected while you were downloading, you would have to restart from the very beginning. That said, that did not prevent people from creating full-length fingerboard videos. People would download anticipated full-length videos overnight so that they could watch it when they woke up. Well, even when you did download the video, there was no real standardization of media files or codec types. You would see containers such as WNV, MOV, AVI, and RM, which was real media. Many of these file formats required one to download a different media player to view the file. Additionally, the video quality was typically poor due to both being self-filmed with amateur equipment and the need to heavily compress the end file for uploading constraints. Alright, with that, let's jump into some early full-length videos from the early 2000s. We're going to start off with Anonymous. One of my favorite full-length videos from the early 2000s featured Nate Gower, and the legends Scott Hetkowski and Beau Marchand. Released in the late 2001-2002, both went MIA prior to the release of this. Basically, this video became a tribute to Beau Marchand. Beau Marchand's footage took up the entire last 6 minutes of the video. When I think of my favorite fingerboarders of all time, Beau is at the top of the list. If he continued fingerboarding to this day, I have no doubt he would be considered one of the greatest fingerboarders out there. Another popular video was Blast Fingerboard's Blast Off. This featured Nevin Steyer, Scott Grams, John Ali, and John Lloyd. Big highlight to me was John Lloyd's part. There were consistent technical tricks, and he would do them on such massive obstacles. He opens it off with a skit.
Okay. Oh no. It's John Lloyd.
And starts off with a hefty switch heel 5-0 and then right into a kickflip frontside nose slide. Extremely clean style for this time for the online scene. He had mad pop. Also, notice the movement on some of these obstacles because we didn't tape stuff down. It's funny how fingerboarding mirrored skateboarding. During the early 2000s, there was the fresh versus hesh thing that was happening in skateboarding. Well, that was also happening in fingerboarding too. Part of the fun was to join a crew or team whose style and vibe meshed with one's own. Empire Fingerboard's Urban Fascination was a half hour of amazing fingerboarding. Highlights from here to me are Remy Banks, who is shredding on Instagram under Pitch Black currently. Perfectly clean nollie heel backside crooked grind on the Tech Deck 8 stair. Vegas released multiple full lengths including Form of Sin and Lights Out. These videos focused on large gaps and stair sets, and featured rock and metal music, and created a very cool vibe. Public Truck's video Enigma was also popular during this time, featuring some of the most popular fingerboarders from those days. Written for Reason featured Nate Thompson with one of the most iconic parts from the early days. Many of these full-length videos can be found on YouTube and Vimeo. Tina Wade, the former administrator of FFI, uploaded many to Vimeo in the mid-2000s. I've linked the channel in the description below. Other amazing videos include Hazards of Warfare, Madness Grips Numeric, America's No Future. Oh, and remember Dennis DeMac? He released a full-length video of himself in 2003 called Flipping Off. It has to be one of the best fingerboard parts from the early days of fingerboarding. It's quite incredible. Other content types were fingerboard video magazines, in the style of the legendary 411 video magazine. FOC VM was the most popular magazine from an English-speaking fingerboarding scene. Typically, there would be parts highlighting a specific fingerboarder, a spot check highlighting a specific obstacle, and so on. There were even media teams, where the point was just to make videos. Two media teams, Whiplash and Lowell's, joined together to release the full-length The Bitter End. It featured Travis Appleman, Raymond Rivera, Jared Felicetti, who just happened to randomly go to my middle school and was like 2 years younger than me, and myself. Another was the World Riding Crew's Global Aggression. It truly deserved the name Global within the name because there were riders from all over the world. Brandon Jones from the USA, Drew Radio from France, Phil Savage and Monique Sahota from Canada, Mohammed Hakam, David Feeks from the UK, Yader Moeller from Brazil, and so on. So we've dug a little bit into fingerboard video media and saw the full-length fingerboard videos on both VHS and digital formats. Well, why don't we look at some of the early commercials that featured fingerboarding? McDonald's partnered with Somerville International to bring the fingerboard brand to Happy Meals all over the United States. This campaign capitalized on the fingerboarding hype that started with the release of Tech Deck back in 1998. Here's a commercial from that time. Additionally, Tech Deck themselves ran some television commercials back then. Here's another one from 2000. Back in 2003, another fingerboard commercial came out, this time produced by Tony Peterson Film as an advertisement for the Miami Ad School's new campus in Hamburg, Germany. The writer is none other than Timo TKY Krantz. And the crazy part is this video went so viral back in the day. Now, commercials weren't just limited to the US and Europe. We also saw Fanta and Coca-Cola push the D2 fingerboard promotion with a set of commercials back in 2000 as well. Additionally, we saw Fanta and Coca-Cola share a spotlight on the fingerboarders who toured Chile back in 1998/1999 and included features on Matt Johnson, Darren Langhorst, Dan Watson, and Pat Wells. As you can see, video media has been at the core of fingerboarding since the beginning of the hobby. As the ability to film and capture video became easier, we saw VHS tapes including fingerboard media being released. Once the internet matured, we started to see fingerboarding clips begin to be uploaded to the internet as well. Thanks to the trifecta of an increase in consumer-friendly camcorders, the increase of average internet bandwidth, and the ease in which to host and share footage, we started to see full-length fingerboard videos being shared to fingerboarders all over the world. Video has and will continue to play a central role in fingerboarding. I look forward to sharing with you part 2 in the near future, where I'll share the evolution of fingerboard videos from 2006 onwards. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you've enjoyed this video, please let me know by tapping that like button and leaving me a comment. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to see the latest videos of mine as soon as they are published. Hope you all have a great day and go shred.